should be the love beyond toleration. Be the love before pride and exaltation. Be the love. Be the love. Be the hope.
You are listening to Be the Love, transcending through the shadows into a higher state of consciousness. We are souls on the journey, opening up the conversation to heal, awaken, and connect ourselves and the planet to a higher vibration of love frequency. It starts with you. Everything you need is within you. This is your time. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Sam Fernandez, and we are your co-hosts at Be the Love podcast. Thank you for tuning in and ascending with us. Hop on board the Ascension Bus.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Be the Love, transcending through the shadows. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Sam Fernandez.
And we are your co-hosts and souls on the journey. If it feels safe for you to take just a moment to get centered with us, I'd like to begin by inviting you to take a beautiful cleansing breath in through your nose and out of your mouth, releasing anything that is keeping you from being present. Take another deep breath in through your nose, breathing in calm, peaceful, loving energy, and breathing out anything you are ready to release. Take one more breath in through your nose, breathing in light and love for yourself, and breathing out the light and love and sending it back to all of humanity. And remembering that you always have your breath to come back to. Today we have Dig. Born and raised in the beautiful Virgin Islands, Dig is the creative force behind Sacred Fire Arts. He began drawing with a passion at age 7 and began supporting himself as an artist by age 18. Since then, he has gone on to work as a custom artist for over 30 years. In that time, his work has received international recognition and acclaim and has been featured in numerous print publications. Dig has been woodburning guitars for years and has had the pleasure of creating one-of-a-kind custom works of art for distinguished international musicians such as John Butler, Michael Franti, Mama Kin, Ash Grunwald, Shawn James, and Trevor Hall, as well as having his work of arts being auctioned off for charity. For him, the process of designing a guitar that can be a cherished heirloom for generations to come is both an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here today with us, Dig.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to let's just jump in with that, and I want to hear a little bit more about what got you started down your artist path.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. It's so good to be here. It's so good to be with you folks. I started drawing. I've drawn ever since I can remember. I have pictures of me before I could write, drawing, little kid with a big afro, drawing away, and I've never stopped. In grade school, I was the person that people would come to and say, "Hey, can you draw this for me?" Knowing I could, and I started to see at a really young age how much people responded to and could be impacted by artwork, and specifically things that I drew. And I stuck with it and did it because I enjoyed it and because I felt like I could produce works of art that were gratifying to me and visually gratifying to me, and also on an inner level gratifying to me, because I would develop these relationships with people and I would see how there was an exchange of energy, and also how it could really put a light on their eyes and make smiles come, and it's just been something that I've done all my life, and I'm grateful to have been able to, at a young age, even start supporting myself as an artist and working in that field. And I've worked in different mediums, and it hasn't always been wood burning guitar, that's for sure. But yeah, I find it extremely gratifying, and to see the depth of connection that people can form to artwork. Any artwork is amazing enough, but when the artwork is specific to that person, custom artwork for a person based on their input, their ideas, their vision, is where I excel, and what keeps me so focused on my craft and doing what I do and putting all of my energy and heart into it. I mean, I could go on and on about it, but I kind of like have you asked me about how I got into it, when I got into it, and I'm like digressing, but.
No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So tell us a little bit about where you get your inspiration from.
These days, I get my inspiration from my clients. And when I'm going to work with somebody, it's always an involved process. Now, it really varies. Like I want people to be involved in the creation of their artwork for their guitars. And sometimes people are initially like, whatever you do is fine. I've seen your portfolio. I know what you can do. I just want you to create something that you like, speaking of me. And my response is always one of, well, there's all kinds of things that I will like. And this is a great opportunity for you to share yourself with me and your ideas, because I want it to be what I like is for it to be something that you like, for something that connects to your heart and your soul and your life and your journey. And then through talking with people, it's almost like an image being projected from their heart onto a projector. And I'm kind of like the screen, or the projector. I don't know what I am, but I function as a medium for bringing this concept, this idea, this vision that oftentimes has old history and old deep connection to these people and to lives. And how do we encapsulate that in a static moment in time that we say, this is the design that we're going to do on this guitar? And it's magical to see how it evolves, and to see how somebody might go from being in a space of, I'm not sure what I want, to all of a sudden, after talking to me, having a cascade of ideas, like, okay, now I'm thinking of all sorts of things. And I often have people say to me, I don't want to overwhelm you with ideas or reference material, but that's never the case. There's never a time when I'm like, oh, that's too much. You want to provide too much information for me for this process. I've never had that experience. I take it all in, and even if it's not all incorporated into the design, it gives me insight as to who that person is, who I'm working with, and what they will like. And again, when I see somebody, and this is because I want people to be a part of it, I see the effects of when somebody's involved in the creation of their design, and how when they get their guitar or they get whatever that work of art is and they look at it, they're like, wow, this is mine. It speaks to me. I'm going to love this forever. And that's great. I'm it's amazing to be part of. And it is like, guitars are something that if people take care of, they can have for beyond a lifetime. It can be passed on to generations, and to see some of the designs and some of the thought that people put into their guitar projects is deep, because oftentimes it's done with the awareness that it will live on after their body has fallen away, and it will be something that their kids cherish, and it will be their story. And it is their story in this lifetime too. I work with people who are on stage telling their story to thousands, if not millions of people, and that in and of itself is amazing to see how like working with Michael Franti, who was a great person to work with because he was very he had very clear ideas and lots of information that he wanted to give me and contribute to this process. And it created this amazing guitar that really represents him. And to see him on stage talking about his guitar, it deepens his connection with his audience, and it inspires people in the audience because of the inspiration that he brought into it. You know, it's like you say, like the energy that you put towards something continues to ripple through time. And so it's neat to see how, again, this guitar project that I get brought in on has this effect way beyond just the guitar. It's sweet, you know.
Yeah. I totally, completely, 100% get what you're saying. And to me, that's kind of the definition of divine art. Divine art is something that, you get, it's between, like a collective, it's between the collective. So you get your ideas from the people who want their guitars burned. And like you said, it channels in through you. Their soul's idea of whatever they want to have on that, on that musical instrument gets channeled in through you. And then it's your hands and it's your creativity that brings that to life, and I think that's amazing. I think, any type of art form is divine art, like you said, with the musicians, that they tell a story, they tell their story or they tell somebody else's story. Whatever resonates with their soul is what they're giving to the masses. And in turn, the masses' souls are resonating with their souls, with Stacy and I being in Colorado and you spending quite a bit of time in Colorado, we have Red Rocks Amphitheater, one of the best amphitheaters in the entire world, and one of the reasons why it's so good is because all that good energy and all that good connection, and it's just flowing, and it just revolves. And to me, just something like that, is considered divine art. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific type of medium. You could look at a leaf and, see the veins coming out of the leaf. That's a divine art for me. So I really, I really appreciate when, people could come together in such an intimate and kind of a raw way, and such kind of a primal way. I mean, putting fire to wood, that's the definition of primal. That's how our ancestors kept warm and cooked their food and, chased beasts away, so to be able to use that kind of medium, I think is very, very amazing. And I know, you're a musician as well, and you've been a musician for a while. So I'm wondering, how does music actually influence you and the art that you do?
That's a great question. And it's a similar, I have a similar connection to music that I do with regard to a specific guitar project, that I do to the entire process that I go through when I'm working with somebody to establish what we're going to be doing, what kind of a design we're going to be doing. I'll almost always ask somebody what kind of music they like and what kind of music has influenced them, because I will always, when I find this information out, always make it a point to listen to music that they like while I'm working. And it might not be music that I would listen to normally, but that's beside the point. It is something that, and because I know how deeply music impacts people. And so when somebody says to me, I love whomever, then I take, that's like sacred information, and I apply it to the energy that goes into the guitar, even if it's not obvious that this group or this performer has played a direct influence on the design or the creation of the guitar. They're there in the background. And, I'm always recording, documenting the creation of these guitars. And people love it when I'm able to share with them me just wood burning, which I always think is, unless you're doing it like I am, it seems like it would be really boring to watch, but people love to watch me wood burning their guitar, and they love it all the more when I've got music they love in the background. And they're like, he's really listening to this song that I told him to listen to. And in some cases, it's the artist's own song. You know, artists will say, hey, I wrote this song, I wrote this song, and I wrote this song. Listen to those, and that will give you. Sometimes they'll say, that's all the inspiration I'm going to give you. I'm not going to give you any pictures. I'm not going to give you any direction in particular, but here's 3 songs that are my favorite songs that I've written, or the words of the songs or the composition applies to what I want this guitar to represent. So get to work, do your magic kind of thing. But, and I love the variety of inspiration I get, and music is just part of that. And I feel like to be able to sit there and listen to the music while I'm wood burning, it gives me a sense of connection to the person who I'm wood burning it for, and to the artist that I might not have had before, you know, because again, I'm trying to listen to music with a very open mind and an open heart. So even if it's not music that I would normally listen to, well, here's an opportunity to learn, and here's an opportunity to embrace something new. And I had a client not that long ago who, I guess it was last year at this point, who got a guitar, beautiful Taylor guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And he got it with a design that was inspired very much by Alex Gray, who I am a huge fan of and have been for, I mean, feels like decades now. Alex Gray has been a huge influence in my life. I don't know if you know who he is, but I'm thinking you probably do. He's amazing. And so this gentleman brought me this project, and he's like, I love Alex Gray. I love Tool, the band Tool. And he's like, I don't know how we can do it, but I want to bring elements from Alex Gray and Tool into it. But I also want to represent my daughters, one of whom has had these challenges in her life recently. And I want to have this thing be something that you just get sucked into, but also is expansive. And so he had me listen, and he gave me a list. He's like, listen to this Tool, listen to that Tool, listen to this song by, and it's like, yeah, this is great. And it was just, so I approach these projects with so much inspiration inside, and it's just like, yeah, let me at it. You know, by the time it's time for me to start wood burning, I'm like, I see the vision. I'm ready. Just like, let me go. Let me do this. Because for me, it's really amazing to watch it manifest too, because there's a magic to bringing the known from the unknown, or that which you can see from a blank canvas. You know, like there's lots of different ways that people have phrased the fact that a blank canvas can be both the most daunting and most inspirational thing in the world. And it's true. And when I sit there looking at a blank guitar, there's this sense of, oh my gosh, what's it going to look like? And also, oh my gosh, it's going to be so amazing, you know? So I love music. Like you say, I love music, and I love listening to music while I'm wood burning, but I will also happily wood burn in silence too, because it's very, for me, just like I can get lost. I won't know how long I'm wood burning. When I'm sitting down to do somebody's guitar, it's like hours will pass, sometimes in silence, sometimes with music. Music will actually help me know how much time has passed more than silence, because I'm like, oh, well, I've been listening to 10 songs and it's been a couple hours, you know, versus just the silence of this little that the wood burner makes. No, I'm not going to get up because I know we're filming, but I've got guitars all around me that, you know, that are in different stages of evolution. Like this is one that I would burn that people love this one. I don't know why they love this one so much, but they love this one. This one I would have to say went more viral perhaps than any other guitar that I have done. This one, I posted a picture of it, and then I went and did stuff. Went to a concert. I was at a concert actually when I started getting all these messages saying, so-and-so is like this picture, so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. Within days, it had like gotten close to like a million views or shares or something. Not shares, but something ridiculous. And it's just like, you know, you look at these things, and it's what do people resonate with? It's really hard to you can't predict that, but it's really interesting to see what people like, you know? And having said that, I do all sorts of styles on guitars. I don't feel like I'm limited to one particular style. I have people who come to me. Here's one that I'm working on right now that it's an electric. You can see just the bare bones beginning of a spiral Nautilus inspired shell coming to life on this one. But, you know, some photorealism, stuff that's based on family history, all sorts of things. And gosh, it's really amazing to watch the process and be part of it, and then to see it when these people start playing their guitars, and just to see them get reacquainted with their guitar as a new, almost like a new instrument. Because sometimes people will come to me with guitars and people will come to me without guitars. And in other words, people will say, I have a guitar, I've had this guitar for 20 years and I really want you to woodburn something on it. Or people will come and say, I don't have a guitar, I want to get a guitar specific for this project. And both I find really, it's really great to see either the transformation of an old favorite part of the family, or the excitement that goes along with, oh, I'm getting a new instrument and it's going to get woodburned. And when I get it back, I'm going to be like a kid in a candy store at Christmas, you know? Yeah.
That sounds really beautiful. What I was like picking up on, and maybe just kind of, you know, what you were saying, going back to just tapping into the music and tapping into this, it almost sounds like this other realm, like you are like getting this divine intervention, these divine messages. So you might come with like a blank canvas, or someone might come with a blank canvas, and you're both working together, but together you really are creating that magic. But I'm wondering, and then that's like the process without thinking, without thoughts, but it's coming from somewhere deeper than that. And I'm just wondering what that, if you could just talk a little bit more about that, if that resonates, like where that working with, you know, that other realm, or being in the flow of like just allowing those messages to come naturally to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I like how you phrased that, because that really is what it feels like. Like, I try and step out of the way when it comes to the creation of a design. And I know that I've got certain talents and certain skills that I can apply to this project. And I try and step out of the way so that that person has full space to present me with their energy and their inspiration or their presence. And however that manifests, I try not to dictate it, but I try and encourage as much sharing of energy on whatever level they feel will be most conducive to me creating something that they will like. It really is a job of service, and I try and keep it selfless service, in the sense of I'm not trying to dictate. I can guide if somebody says, well, what do you think about that? Or do you think this would be better than that? I'm happy to give some direction. I'm happy to guide. If people ask me for, the more they ask for my input, I'm happy to. There's a science to art too, and there's a flow to art, and I try and bridge the science and the flow of it. And I feel like in my life, I've had lots of teachers, art teachers, who've really taught me a lot about art theory and the science of art, but also the ability to create. I've had lots of teachers within the world of art who inspired me and reminded me of the importance, when you're creating custom art, of creating something that the person likes, and not necessarily what I want them to do. And more than anything, I feel like it's a matter of me not wanting somebody to do something, but wanting to know what they want, and then taking that and filling that space with something that they're going to visually love. Now, I always think of the artwork that I'm striving to achieve. I feel like if I had a goal that I was going to state, that I would want this to be something that when a person's life is over, when they're getting ready to leave their body, when they are leaving their body, that they feel like somehow that represented them. I don't know how to like, because people are so fluid and dynamic, and there's not just like, it's really hard to say that one thing is going to represent somebody. I understand that, and yet I imagine that as the breath leaves the body, if this was the last thing that you looked at, would you feel that this represented you? Would this feel like that this somehow spoke of your journey here on this planet? Is this embody and encapsulate your energy? And again, I'm not trying to say that from the point of view of I want to limit that which is leaving the body to what the body did or what that person was, but that's my goal, to have somebody feel happy with the design that they got when it's all said and done. You know, I kind of got that. I kind of got that attitude from 20 years that I spent tattooing. And that was another medium where people put intense thought and gave intense value to the artwork that they got on their body. And that's when I first started thinking along those lines of, these people are going to be wearing this for the rest of their lives, and it's going to be the last thing that they see when they stop seeing something. And is there going to be a sense of, I wish I hadn't gotten that, or what the heck, you know, like I always strove for something positive or uplifting, or at least deeply personal when I was in that career. And I think that kind of bled over, it's a funny word to use with regard to tattooing, but anyway, into woodburning guitars, because I just see how much guitars mean to people, and they last longer than the skin on a body too. So there's that element of feeling like there's more, as permanent as a tattoo is, there's more permanence to a guitar. And that's been something that I have to say is really one of the really rewarding things about guitars, is that there is this sense of being passed down through generations, or longevity to the artwork, and people take really good care of it, and yet it's functional art, so it's being used. And oh gosh, it's been a great experience to be part of this process, I have to say. And you can see from talking, from this conversation, that it really, it's a reciprocal process that I'm engaged in with people, and it's a really rewarding process for myself and for the person, hopefully. And it's like, especially when I'm working with somebody who's going to be playing on stages, there's this cyclical process of an energy exchange. Like, people pour their energy into their music, and their music inspires people, and then they bring me a guitar project, and I pour my energy into that, and they pour their energy into that, and then I see them with it on stage, and then it's inspiring people even more in the audience, and the audience is connecting with the artist, the musician artist, as well as the musician through the art on their instrument. And it's deep, and it's a sweet process to be part of, and just a little bit, you know. Yeah.
And you know that, like, I mean, it sounds very just soul centered, and you know, when you're doing what you love, it's never work, and it flows, and it becomes natural, and it becomes this process of being easy. I just think about, you know, when you're creating something, and your heart is in it for the right reason. Like you said, you're in this for service and service to others, and the musicians are in it for service to others. They're, you know, or they're providing a service, right? Their music. I can't speak for all artists, but like,
right.
but you know, but like, that is that when you're heart centered and you're open and you're flowing, then the art is going to touch, many, many lives. Seems.
You know, you mentioned in the beginning that I had done work for charity, and one of the guitars that I had created specifically for an artist by the name of Trevor Hall, who's a Colorado person, I think, these days. He had this guitar, and it was auctioned as part of a Conscious Alliance. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Conscious Alliance, but Conscious Alliance does charitable auctions to help feed those in need in America. And Trevor's guitar was auctioned as part of that. And I was so happy to see that it brought in way more money than I ever would have thought it would have brought in. I was like, I think it brought in $4,600. And that's a testament to Trevor's fan base, but also I think, well, let's stick with Trevor's fan base. He I don't know if you're familiar with him as an artist, but he's got a big heart. And I think that somebody out there obviously also had a big heart and was happy to have a piece of Trevor's musical collection while also supporting an amazing charity like Conscious Alliance and what their mission of bringing food to those in need is. And I was just really honored to be a part of that. I've worked with Conscious Alliance in the past, and we'll work together again too. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that you brought up the the auctioning off of Trevor Hall's guitar, because it's not it's not just limited to an artist comes to you with a guitar, you burn it, and the artist takes it and plays it on a show. That's like you said, it's cyclical. That's not where this ends. So now the individual that bought the guitar for charity, now this individual, like you said, has a work of art, something that to remind him of an artist like Trevor Hall, and something to remind him of an artist like yourself, combining energies. And then in turn, that money that he or she paid for the guitar goes to feeding people. So now that good energy is being spread to somebody else, and then and it'll continue, like you said with the guitars. If you take care of them, they last forever. So that could be passed down from generation to generation to generation. Not only that, but then you have the people who benefited from the food, and now stories get told. And that good energy gets spread, and it's like this huge just wave that keeps crashing in and out and in and out, and it's all good energy. And that good energy started with an idea. That's where it all started, and that's where good energies, they start with just the simplest of ideas. And I think it's incredible, and it's beautiful, and it's amazing just how we as human beings can be of service in any way imaginable. A lot of us, we are put in these boxes, and we think that our reach can only go as far as our grasp. That's as far as we go. But to hear your stories about the guitar donations and just everything, you see that no, your reach goes way beyond your grasp, and your reach will continue to go on long before, or long after our shells are gone and we have moved on. The impact that we put on this earth will continue to go on, and the amazing things that you're doing, it's just good energy being just flown in and flowed in and flowed in. And I don't know. I think that's amazing. I think that's incredible, and I think that anybody that could be of service in any particular way, it just continues to help the collective. It just continues to kind of ascend us. you know, not just individual ascension, all just ascending, just us, you know, earth, everything. And yeah, and I think that's, you know, it's incredible. And to me, like I'm like excited, like I'm buzzing right now just from hearing you talking about all that charity and everything else, because that's what makes me feel good. You know, that's what resonates with me. And yeah, and and you did mention too how, you know, you'll listen to music that people have suggested when you do your burnings, but you also listen to nothing. And it sounds to me like, you know, that's kind of a form of meditation to you, right? So can you kind of go like just maybe a little bit deeper into, you know, kind of just the meditation that you do when you do your art, and how that connects you with not only the person that's requesting it, but with, you know, all the elements that you're using as well to create this art.
Yeah, it is a very meditative process, and on a lot of level, like obviously it's not something that I can close my eyes and, but I will though, honestly. I will while I'm working, I will take breaks just to close my eyes and take some deep breaths, and it's already a very centering process. And I think that it lends itself to me having to just take a moment, sit up straight, and bring the breath in, and then breathe the breath out, and come back, because it does get thick, it gets deep in that process of just working with the heat and the wood grain, and watching the molecules change as this heat affects it, and the designs that are emerging out of nothingness. And oftentimes the designs are kind of psychedelic. And it's like you can get lost in them, and have, you know, really magical experiences with it within the design. And I've got to stay grounded while I'm working on these designs that can be quite expansive. You know, it's like you working on animal medicine or galactic influence, cosmic things that people bring to the equation. And I'm trying to it's just, you know, I often work at night too, middle of the night. So I'm in that zone. Things are quiet, things are still. I'm wood burning for hours and hours, and oftentimes on very like deep subject matter, and it just gets, it's out there. It's magic. It's just amazing. And it's kind of, yeah. It's not lost on me that there's more to the process, as you say, than meets the eye. And yeah, I feel like a lot goes into it, and a lot should. You can feel it in the guitars, and it's not like I'm saying you can feel me in the guitars, but you can feel the energy that goes into it, the person's energy, the music, all of that resonates through this guitar, and people who see them, you know, it's interesting to see people's reactions to them too, because some people are guitar purists, and they're like, you don't put anything on a guitar but the wood, and that's great. I can totally respect that. But other people are like, wow, that's the most amazing thing. That's not doing anything bad to a guitar. That's like the best thing you could have done. You know, it's interesting though, you know, not everyone is a fan of it. And I say that because I'm friends with a lot of luthiers, people who make amazing guitars, and I get that. I get that there's the purists out there who nothing looks better than a solid wood top, or an exotic wood top. And I get that. I'm there for that, you know. And those aren't the people that I'm appealing to in terms of as somebody coming to me to say, I want you to do art on there. But having said that, I have a lot of luthiers who I know, or who I will work with, who I don't know, and then I meet that way, and they say things to me like, I've heard about you because you do this, and I want to have you do this on this guitar that somebody wants, not for them per se, but you know, there's people out there who are like, yeah, I want him to do a guitar for me. And I found myself working with numerous luthiers in that capacity, they're building the guitar and I'm wood burning it, which is neat. And I just want to say something. You kind of had me thinking about it as you both were talking about the energy that goes into it, or how does it come about? What's the inspiration come from? And I have to say that I have some of the most amazing clients, the most amazing hearted people come across my path. And if that's because I'm drawing them to me, then that's great. If it's for some other reason, just because, I don't know. I can only say that when I meet these people and start to learn about them, that I'm always overwhelmed by their hearts. And I consider it an honor to do what I do because I love what I do, but I also consider it an honor to do what I do because I work with amazing freaking people. I work with people who I want to be their friend. It's like I don't always have to develop a relationship of a friendship with them, but everyone I meet, I'm like, gosh, I just love this person so much. But you have to be professional too, and you can't just say that to everybody. But I do though. I send it because I communicate with so many people via the text message, emails, messages on the internet. I'm always having to restrain myself from sending hearts and I do. Sam, you've gotten lots of hearts for me, because I always sign it that way, and that's how I feel about these interactions with these beautiful beings that I come across with. And sometimes they are never going to play that guitar in front of anybody, and that doesn't matter to me at all. That guitar is something sometimes that will sit on a wall, and sometimes they're going to play it in front of a lot of people. And I have to say that's just, that's either way. It's like it's like working with somebody famous is wonderful, but because somebody's famous doesn't make them a big-hearted person necessarily. I just am fortunate that the people who are famous or have some level of celebrity have also been amazingly big-hearted people who are involved in their own charitable pursuits and their own endeavors to help shine light in the world, bring light to the world, and uplift humanity. And I'm like, golly gee, this is just such an honor on that level. But again, when I work with somebody who's not famous, they're still doing the same thing within their communities, within their circles, within their families. They're still the ones that are trying to uplift. I have these ridiculously happy people in my life because of wood burning their guitars, and I see their posts on social media, and it's always an inspiration to me. And I'm always like, yep, I wasn't just imagining, or it wasn't just something that I was presented to me as part of the creation of their guitar. And like you say, everyone has their light and their dark. Everyone has their struggles. Everyone has their challenges. Everyone has their obstacles within their own self to overcome and to face. But I'm always inspired by those who can do it and then maintain positivity and find ways to tap into the joy or the light or the contentment or the sense of I can be of most service in this world by being my best self, my happiest self, and my most uplifting self, even if I'm dealing with or going through or what have you, because I see some amazing people go through some amazing challenges too. And I get a lot of inspiration from seeing how some of the people that I know specifically through wood burning guitars handle challenges. It's neat. I don't take it for granted, and it's something to be grateful for, to be able to learn from the people I work with, like I do, And I sense that you both have the similar experience with people that you work with,
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just so honored to have the people who I have in my life, and I feel like a lot of that is, my own inner journey, my own inner work that I've done to help clear out some of the stuff. And so I come from, maybe that perspective of like attracts like. So we attract people into our lives because we are in that same space. We are, like attracts like. And so, but yeah, it's been such an incredible journey, especially, just even just doing this podcast and the people that we get to surround ourselves with and learn from and have these beautiful conversations. It's been a huge blessing. And so I kind of have a two-part question. I'm really curious about what are some of your spiritual tools that you use to tap into some of that, or what you've done for your own on your own journey, and then also how has that and art has that helped in your own shadow work on your own spiritual journey?
Well, I'll start with the second part of that question first. Art has been a part of meditation for me for a long time. Like, I'll see visions in meditation, I'll see patterns, I'll see things form, I'll get inspiration. And meditation in and of itself for me has been a journey through the most challenging parts of myself and the most uplifting parts of myself. The parts of myself that I might not want to look at, I get to look at when I take the time to meditate consciously. And it's like part of the fruit of that, perhaps I could say, is that you look at that and you look at that, and then you come back to this three-dimensional world. For me, at least, it's been a process of coming back, wanting to be lighter, wanting to have more lightness or more freedom within my own self and within the world around me. And I definitely feel that, well, you can't have the dark without the light, and that there's a balance between them. And I feel like my art has definitely taken me on journeys through darkness and light, and has been with me, has been an integral part of me and who I am and how I deal with things for most of my life. So if I'm going through a dark period in my life, or a challenging period, or a tragic period, the art is part of what I use to process, and it would seem move through almost as a transformative tool that I don't always see as a transformative tool, because it is part of what I just am always involved with. But it is definitely something that, like, as I've gone through different experiences on my own journey, I've seen how it's influenced my understanding of the world around me and how I see the world around me, and how I bring that awareness to the art that I do. And one of the things, for instance, that I've really noticed a correlation in is my study of dynamic light and shade. Like how light interacts with objects, and how conceptually light represents or presents itself in a design, because of how, like, I look at it in the external world, I look at it in the world around me, and it's really, like you say, the play between light and shadow that we can see visually in the world, for me as an artist is very, it's like, it represents a process that I bring to all my pieces. It represents a process that I go through as I'm working on my pieces. I feel like there's always a process of tremendous joy, and also of like an undefined grief in every project that I do. There's like this, you're looking out over, I feel like there's sometimes literally, sometimes just figuratively, there's a feeling of looking out over the abyss when I start a project, or when I'm deep in a project. And And then there's a process of stepping back from that abyss and seeing what's come of that, looking into this eye of creation, of nothingness, of everything, and just watching it. And then what comes of it is different each time, but it somehow, to me, has seed traces of that experience that I go through. And again, talking about my clients again, I've got some wild clients who give me some wild ideas and encourage me to go out there and to push the boundaries, or to push the ways that light and shadow can be represented in a way that will be trippy, that will be sacred, that will be captivating and mesmerizing, but also profound and stilling, calming. Like so much for me goes back to the people I get to work with, and I know I keep saying I'm so grateful for it, but I really am. And then let me go back to the first part of your question. Refresh my memory on your first part of your question, please.
Sure. Yeah, I was just wondering about what your spiritual tools were.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think how far back to go. I feel like as far back as I can remember, I always felt strongly like there was more to this world than met the eye, and that who I really wasn't of this, what you can see with the eye, wasn't of just this world. I used to feel, I remember standing on the porch when I was really young in the Virgin Islands, and I would just like look up at the stars, and it was a place in the world where there wasn't a lot of light pollution from buildings and cities, and the stars, just massive in the sky. And I would look up at the stars, and I didn't have a strong connection to what I was introduced to as the concept of God, but I had this deep and profound connection to the universe. Going back a little bit, I'll give you a little bit of additional information. I was born into a family that my mom was an atheist, and my father's family were Episcopalians. And I remember some of my earliest exposure to the concept of something divine being one of sin and punishment and heaven for some people and hell for other people. And it was really scary as a kid, having to start my day every day in a church, getting these messages. And I didn't know what to think, but I remember it didn't resonate with me like looking up at the stars resonated with me. I would talk to the universe, but I never felt a connection to what I was being introduced to, at least in the church at the time, as this is something I connect to. This isn't where I'm going to come in and confess or express who I truly am on the deepest level. It's to the universe and the stars. And that's where I found myself as a, and again, everyone's different, so I don't mean to like say one is better than the other. But for me, that's what resonated. I found myself talking to the universe and to the stars and to the beings that I felt might be out there. Again, I don't know where I got this information from. It's pre-Star Wars. I was like 6 or something, and I'm sending messages, telepathic messages out, or this is what I'm telling myself. When I first learned about telepathy, I'm like, let me send telepathic messages out to the stars and remind them, don't forget about me. So that's one of my earliest memories, actually. And then I remember as I got older, wanting to feel greater connectivity to whatever that source was. The older I got, I felt like I was losing that connection as I was being more introduced to the world of education and interpersonal relationships and whatnot. And I felt progressively drawn to try different established religions. and I investigated to different degrees Buddhism. I spent time actively trying to go to churches, whether it was a Unitarian church or different churches that were recommended to me. Again, all looking for that connection. And seeing glimpses of that, but wanting more and not feeling completely fulfilled, perhaps. And I found at a young age, relatively young age, I discovered yoga. I feel like I grew up with yoga. My mom had me doing yoga poses when I was a kid, when I was like, again, from whatever age she could get me in to do it. But that wasn't like with a discipline or a path as such. And I feel like probably when I was about 16 or 17, I started actively following a yogic path. And then that led me to a yogic and a raw food path, which I was on probably pretty dedicatedly for probably 20 years, at least, if not more. And I went to India and I did lots of fasting, and I was very discipline focused with regard to wanting to get the most tangible results, the results that I would be reading about, whether it was health-wise or internally. And I remember, like, I feel like consistently through my life, there's been this thread of rebellion. And it's always been there, and I've always been grateful for it, though not always in the moment. And I feel like when it came to spirituality, there's always been this rebellion of following or being too set on something as this is the truth, this is the way kind of thing. And I've always tried to do my best not to be that way, but I know that there have been times when I have been that way, like with, for instance, raw food. I was very much a proponent. I'm not a raw food person right now, but I'm also things that I learned over those 20 years are still with me. I'm not anti-raw food, but that's not what I do right now. But there were times over that period where I was very much like, and I felt like I was basing it on science and basing it on what I'd learned, and I didn't feel like I was like too deep down the rabbit hole, but I felt like this is what will save the planet, you know? And I've just seen myself shift, I'll put it that way. I've seen myself change, and things that I thought could never change, never shift and change in massive ways. And as they change, what stays the same? What is it that and it's part of it is that rebellious spirit that continues to remind me to bring my attention inward. Because it's really easy to give power away. And I haven't felt like in my life that I would say it's been a habit of me to give my power away as such. But I do feel like one of the areas that I have definitely found myself weighing things with great discernment and great discrimination and great attention to detail is in the spiritual realm. Like, am I giving my power away? It's continually a question that I have to ask myself, you know? And being reminded by various experiences, journeys, teachers, scriptures, whether it's yogic or Buddhist or Christian or Shinto or what have you, I feel like there's so many reminders that we go inside and that we have all the answers inside and that we are this greatness. All of this is within us, and that you can follow a path. I remember this is one of the things that it's like like I say, I've seen myself shift a lot. And one of the areas that I've seen myself shift a lot is within the area of being a student of yoga. And I don't mean hatha yoga, I mean the yogic lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And there's parts of that are still part of me, but there's parts of that aren't part of me now. Like lots of the dogmatic parts of that aren't part of me now. And it's like, I feel like there's things that I remember from my consistent practice, that like the notion that you can follow any number of paths to reach the goal, the temple, the utopia, the heaven, the nirvana, the samadhi. But at some point, you've got to leave that path. You've got to leave that mantra. You've got to leave that body. You've got to leave that concept of who you were and what you thought was right and wrong, and be all of that and more than that. And I have just observed how that process has been it's a trip. It's a trip to be here in this body and be watching all of these things present themselves and fall away, and present themselves and seem so real and significant and then fall away. And it's a reminder that, like, I'll tell you, my wife is a hospice person, 12 years hospice, and she's continually, just by her very presence, reminding me about the temporariness of life, the delicacy of life, the preciousness of life. And when you're like constantly thinking about death, the moment becomes that much more valuable. The life becomes that much more valuable. I remember that was one of the things that drew me to yoga, was the emphasis on thinking about death, the emphasis on thinking about how these bodies were temporary and that there was more to it than that. Now, are there past lives, future lives? Is time linear? I don't even know if time is linear. So it's like, I feel like I've learned a lot from all these different paths and experiences. And if I had to pin myself down, I'd have a really hard time doing it. I'd have a really hard time saying that this is too real, or I know too. I'd have a hard time saying too much. I don't know. I like people ask me, where are your political affiliations? I don't know. I don't fit into that. I don't see things like that. So it's really hard for me to try and define myself as that. And I would say that I want to be a good person. I want to be a kind person. I strive to do that. I strive to experience love within myself and share it with other people. Is that a spiritual path? I don't know. It feels like it is. It feels like it's one of the consistents in my life. That and a rebellious streak that continually has me questioning, maybe too much. I know that in school it was too much. In church when I was a kid, it was too much. I was asking too many questions. But I'm grateful for that, and it's still part of me. So even though it has made things that I felt like, again, for me to separate from my path of yoga was a big deal for me, because I felt like it would never happen. I felt like this was a marriage, this was a commitment. And I feel like I'm continually washing my brain, continually trying not to be brainwashed. So I'm continually like trying to wash out and get, check what's really going on in there. And is this a universal concept? Is it an eternal concept? And how much do I know? And how much can I say I know for sure? And what do I want to claim? These are all questions that I'm continually asking myself. And I don't have the answers, but I do have a lot of questions. And I feel like the questions take me in certain directions and give me some answers, and what they give me might lead to to more confusion or more questions. And there's a sense of expansion and contraction, expansion into a space of, I am expansive and great and beyond what I can ever know. But also then these questions come, and I like to dissect them and think about, who do I think I am and what is this world about? And things can seem so real, especially when faced with challenges. Like, it's all well and good when you have the time to sit in a cave and meditate. But when you're faced with the challenges of your family that know exactly which button to push, or you're faced with natural disasters, or you're faced with the death of somebody that you love, then all of a sudden, and I'm saying these things because these are all things that I've seen myself have to deal with, and I've seen the varying levels of challenge, and how do I handle that, and how much does something shake me from my center, or how much can I stay centered, and what tools do I have? Like, if I'm going to follow the practice of, for instance, mantra repetition, how much does that mantra help me? And if there's a point where I no longer follow that practice of mantra repetition, because one of the things that it's like, that's one of those things that you're even within yoga, you're encouraged to, at some point, you've got to let go of the mantra. The mantra is a tool. You've got to let go of that. Then what tool do you use when there's not that mantra? I know that for years, it was so hard for me, if something was a stress on my mind, not to start repeating a mantra. Because what's there if there's not a mantra? There's breath. There's questions. There's observance and awareness. I think of like when you're out in an expanded state of consciousness, wherever that expanse is coming from. It could be music. Like, I love music, and I love getting into just like the vibe of music, where you just get like intoxicated with it, especially live music, especially music where the musicians are really like having to create in the moment, spontaneous and yet synchronized. You know, you get into the, or it could be from whatever, breath work, or for some people it's psychedelics, and there's these expansive states that you get into where you experience what the visionary artists are trying to bring back. And it could be a visionary artist who's a visual artist, it could be a visionary artist who's a musical artist, and they're trying to encapsulate that which can't be encapsulated in something limited and static or small or whatever. And it's like this incredible process of just feeling like I'm just continually blown away by the mystery and magic of it all. And I wish I could say more definitively I had a path. I don't wish that, but to answer your question, it would be easy if I just had a cut answer of, I practice this, or I am that, you know. I didn't make that easy for you.
No, that's great. That's a really beautiful answer, you know, because it really does show like the path that you've gone down, and it really made me think, you know, I like what you were saying about kind of like how you washed your brain, and, you know, and like maybe something resonated with you at one point, but then there's, you know, something started to not resonate. And then it reminded me, and I think I might have mentioned this on another podcast, but of this Rumi quote, where he says, I looked for, I always mess up quotes, but I looked for the divine in churches, mosques, and temples, and I found it in the divine in my heart, is basically the gist of the quote. And it's, you know, just such a beautiful sentiment that, like, you know, it's never outside of us, right? It's we can use tools along the way that help us connect to ourselves, but it's really coming back to what is within. And that's really where the answers lie. It's really beautiful.
Well, you know, we talk about tools. I would say that one common tool that it seems like we all have, and that you started the episode with, was the breath. And that, in my own experience, has probably been the most powerful tool that I've had, and the tool that has transcended all else for me and has persevered more than anything. Not that I always remember to utilize it, but when I do remember to utilize it, it is the most effective tool that I have personally. And I've seen it consistently, regardless of whatever other beliefs or external circumstances I'm in. The breath is when I can remember to breathe consciously and take those deep breaths, especially when I need it. I mean, golly, that's the thing. It's like, again, if you're sitting in a cave, focused on your breathing, focused on your meditation, it's a different experience than when you're in the storm. I've literally, you know, like I can think back to moments literally being in a storm on a boat where there's rocks in front, following seas, big waves coming behind you, wind, everything is crazy. And it's like the urge to not breathe, the urge to like tense up and lose the focus on the breath is extreme. And I think of this again as in it's an analogy for life. But if I can remember in those moments to breathe, when I do, it changes things so dramatically and so quickly that it's a shocker that my mind can win out as often as it does and make me forget to breathe in a sense. Like in the midst of a struggle or a tribulation or whatever, you know, it's like if I'm on a boat and I'm in a crisis situation, breathe through it. You know, if somebody's giving birth, what do they say? Breathe through it. You know, if I'm in a good time, in a bad time, happy, sad, that breath is the most valuable tool that I've come across. And there's going to be a point where I can't do it anymore, where it's just going to leave, you know. And it's ironic that it is such a tool to affect our mental state as well as keeping us alive. You know, there's that connection between your mental state and being alive. It's like you think and you're alive. And
yeah, and the breath is
stuff.
Really when, you know, as a therapist, you know, I've learned that like the first thing to go and we experience trauma, whether or not that is, you know, trauma as a little kid and maybe falling down or, you know, other more traumatic things happening, the breath is the first thing to go as far as like starts to constrict. And the more you constrict it over the years, you know, we're all breathing so shallowly. And so when we don't have the full breath, it creates dis-ease and, you know, anxiety and stress and, you know, because we're always holding on and we're holding on to that breath. And so breath work is so powerful. You know, I've done some breath work that it's, you know, you go deep and you breathe for hours or not hours, but well, in some cases,
sometimes, yeah, right.
Sometimes, yeah. You know, but you're breathing so deeply, you're releasing so much emotion at the same time. And so all those deep embedded emotions that have been stored in the body for so long start to come up and be released. And it's so powerful what working with the breath can really do.
Absolutely. We've been working with, I live with my wife and my 7-year-old son. And lately we've been working on, not lately, I wish lately, but we've been doing with some regularity Wim Hof breathing together in the evenings. And it's been so great. It's been so good. Like it's just to do that intense breathing and then the zone, you get into this zone and I'm getting like, it's not just through that. Like I feel the zone as we have been getting deeper into our consciousness. But what I meant to say is into our conversation. It's like the buzz, like you were talking about the buzz, Sam. It's like, you're like, oh, wow, what a great time. I love it. And it's like, the breath has so much to do with it, but it's not just the breath. Like I'm feeling the buzz right now through talking with you folks that I feel after doing 10 minutes of Wim Hof breathing, you know, and I haven't been doing the Wim Hof breathing, you know, so there's something to the connection and the sharing of energy that is magical and just gets you, you know, I love it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, this has been a really great conversation, and just the energy, you know, just co-creating this has been really beautiful.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. So Dig, tell our listeners how they can find you and what you're currently working on.
Well, I'm all over the internet these days. I'm on Facebook, Sacred Fire Arts, Sacred, SACRED, FIREARTS is the name of the business that I have, woodburning custom guitars. And I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube and Pinterest, and I'm sure other things too. And I have a website, which is sacredfirearts.com. And for those who find me with the interest of getting a guitar, it's never as simple as simply saying, I want to order a guitar, let me pay you for it. It's always a process. And I say this on my website, and I say this whenever I get to communicate with anybody. We have to talk first. There's a process of communication and interaction, and some people don't want to talk in person. Like, some people would much rather just do the communication through written, through text, email format. And that's fine. I can totally respect that. I understand that a lot of thought can be poured into the written word. And people, oftentimes I will encounter people who feel like the thought that goes into what they write helps them attain clarity with what they want me to do. So they like writing it down because it makes them think about it more. Versus other people want to talk to me. Video chats, phone, I'm available for all of that. I love all of that, because however we communicate about it, if somebody comes to me for a guitar, we get to talk about what you want that guitar to be. It's not as simple as just saying, I want you to create it. You can say that, but the more you talk to me, the more you'll be like, no, actually, I want to give you some input, because I see that there's a lot of potential to this. And the more input I give you, the more it's going to be mine, and the more it's going to resonate with my story. So it's like, oftentimes I'll talk with somebody. So I'm looking forward to always talking with a client. But it's really interesting, because after that first conversation, people will often leave with more questions than they had thought they did. They're like, what do I want? I've got to go research now. I've got to go think about this, because I thought I knew what I wanted. I saw Michael Franti's guitar. I saw somebody's guitar, and I like that one. I want something like that. And they start thinking, and I start telling them how Michael Franti's guitar came about and how much thought he put into it. And they're like, oh, wow, I'm going back to the drawing board. I need to figure this out. There's a lot more to it.
Well, thank you, Dig, for being here today and sharing all your experiences with us.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the time.
It's been an absolute amazing pleasure. So thank you. And thank you for listening to our show. Stay tuned for more episodes being released on Mondays at 5:55 Mountain Standard Time. And if you like this show, share the love by sharing it with your friends. If you want to support the work that we're doing, please consider making a donation to our show by visiting our Patreon site at patreon.com/Be the Love Podcast. And until next time, love yourself, love each other, and love the world. We love you guys.
Love you guys. Take care. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you, Heather Lynn, for providing us with your beautiful song to accompany our show, Be the Love. If you would like to learn more about Heather Lynn and her music, please visit her website at heatherlynnmusic.com. And thank you, Chrissy Grace at Leading Edge Productions, for the beautiful design and graphics.
And thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we are souls on the journey. And thank you for hopping on the Ascension bus with us. And remember, there is always a seat for you.